Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named eNuminous Archimedes titled When the Levee Breaks. And if we switch over to here, this is not the first track I've heard from eNuminous Archimedes before. Typically they work with AI and kind of music related to some of the videos have also been AI made. I think this is no exception to it from what I understand. This track is a cover of the Kansas Joe McCoy and Memphis Mini track here. I think the original came out a while ago now, in 1927 if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be interesting to see how we interpret this piece. But we're going to listen through this track from start till finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. When the levee breaks. It's kind of unsettling with the little bits of noise around the headphones there.
If it keeps on raining, levee's going to break. If it keeps on raining, levee's going to break. And the water gonna come in, and we'll have no place to stay.
I mean, like, it's actually really bluesy. It's incredibly depressing sounding with just that white noise for the first 20 seconds, and then the vocals come in quite reminiscent of the vocal style from around that period there, that Louisiana kind of accent to it. That's incredible. The guitar riff there, the slow drums, the slow tempo overall is really kind of chilling. Honestly, it's kind of a surreal experience.
Well, last night I sat on the levee alone. Long last night I sat on the levee alone, thinking about my baby and my happy home. If it keeps on raining, levee's going to break. If it keeps on raining.
Because what is the phrasing in terms of time signature? How many bars do we have per stanza? Is it 3?
Levee's going to break.
Or per line, should I say?
And all these people will have no place to stay. Now look here, mama, what am I? Now look here, mama, what am I?
There's like a sense of expressiveness from the voice that I wasn't expecting, and I admire it.
Ain't got nobody to tell my troubles to. I worked on the levee, mama, both night and day. I worked on the levee, mama, both night and day. I ain't got nobody to keep the water away. Oh, crying won't help you, praying won't do no good.
And dynamic range.
Won't help you, praying won't do no good. Whenever the levee breaks, mama, you got to lose. I worked on the levee, mama, both night and day.
The kind of wow wow, the guitar or that noisy element in the background is very disconcerting there. It adds a constant state of tension as if, because I understand like a lot of this is AI generated, And I could be wrong in that, but that's my understanding of it at this point in time. It's like the computer is understanding that there's sort of a perilous situation, and it's trying to add further stuff to its own sort of rendition of it to kind of cement that feeling in there. It's kind of wild, man.
Worked so hard to keep the water away.
I mean, the video is striking, isn't it? Like, you just look at this image that's being presented here. It's incredible, really. I think that like this kind of stuff is really this kind of stuff works really well for rock, if that makes sense, because within rock there's like progressive, and you can probably get away with a little bit of the structural flamboyance and lesser the rigidity, like that we commonly have, to make a track a bit more interesting, because it's just like we're trying to we were just trying to interpret how many bars of stuff we should have. That might be how it is originally, to be fair. But either way, it's actually, I honestly, like, if I didn't know that this was the way it was done now, like produced the way it was, I would potentially assume that they were just trying to make something sort of more experimental, You could like have vocal samples and loop them, right? And there's like this chuggishness to those crashes, dum, boom, boom. There's like almost a free-flowing nature to it, which I think that is potentially trying to make it so that there's a little bit less kind of like a robotic position on the percussion now. Like it's more human. You place accents, or you anticipate a note, or you kind of stagger on it just a little bit for effect. We're trying to do that here, I think, and it's incredible. We're continuing. No, we're going around the stereo headphones now. I'm being genuine. Should I like put a seizure warning in? I'm being genuine. Is that like flashing? Is that the bad kind of flashing? Okay. All right. That one caught me off guard. I'm impressed. We're going to talk about that more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named eNuminous Archimedes. It's a cover of the track When the Levee Breaks. It's a cover of a song from Kansas Joe McCoy and Memphis Minnie. Now, let's just be real for a moment. I think that this is a perfect example of it getting really, really difficult to differentiate. I think here, to people who expect things to be kind of very rigid, and like there's a set amount of bars for like a verse, set amount of chorus and stuff like that, they would look at this and instantly be like, no, that's not what human would do it like this. But the reality of the situation is, as someone like who's personally listened to a lot of experimental stuff, honestly, like the vast majority of this, if I heard it without the video, because the video, there's clearly some kind of wild stuff going on in the video, right? The video is a little bit more of a giveaway to me visually. You can kind of see like a lot of the kind of stuff going on, and you're like, no, I don't know if that would actually happen in real life. But audio wise, I mean, the track, as I understand it, is about there being like a levee or like a dam breaking or something like that, and people getting flooded. I think that initially they're concerned about that levee breaking, or that that dam breaking, and the cause and the cause of misery that would be, the damage that we'll do and stuff like that. And then eventually gets to the point where the guy talks about having actually worked on the levee and stuff like that, and him sort of feeling a sense of responsibility for it potentially because he was a part of it, and dealing with the fact that he is in some way responsible for what occurred when that levee did break. That's my interpretation of what the story is about. I got that through clearly. The vocal performance from the AI was great. We sounded authentic to the time for the most part. Like, again, I get that it didn't sound like a, but it's the 1927 at the same time. Like, a recording from that period isn't going to sound crystal clear like today. I think that's partially how you could potentially get away with it, is like do newer versions or like AI versions of old songs to kind of bring them into the 21st century. And because of the audio recording, you probably couldn't necessarily tell that who it was, whether it was real or not. To be fair, the phrasing of some of the lines is a little bit unusual and stuff like that, Ben, but if you're more open-minded, ironically, that's going to make it difficult to actually tell what's going on. I kind of have to, again, I have to admire that for that, it's getting tricky for sure. Because you could have just had it more of a free-flowing, independent performance where the singer didn't necessarily need to stick to going along with the groove of the guitars or the bass or the drums or anything like that. They could have just had their own sort of way of moving forward, being like an independent poet within the piece. I think that's great. I think it's really clever. I think that the track at 5 minutes 54, it's long, but the weirdest thing about this is that most of it made sense to me musically. We had this gradual development there where we started with like the kind of noises there with a bit of the wind, and I was like perplexed by that for a bit. But we came in around the 20-second mark with some vocals, and we had the guitar, bass, and drums come in afterwards, and those are traditional instruments that make sense for that period, to be honest. We had like this organic kind of raw tone to the drums, the guitar, and the bass, where it didn't sound overproduced, ironically suiting the period a bit more than a lot of the tones you get on instruments nowadays, where ironically a lot of people are quantizing their electric drums and stuff like that, and they're using guitar plugins through computers. It's a real wacky time. But I listen to this and I think, okay, this was through composed, and that's part of what the reason I say that is because typically when songs are written by people, like as in like people like writing songs and fully, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like AI related. You have people kind of going, oh, I don't have the beginner's mindset. I know that you need to have like 16 bars for this section and 16 bars for that. And ironically, it can make a track like this very uninteresting because they're repeating or copying, pasting various bits. Ironically for me, it's when people do more stuff like this AI did, where like they have different phrasings of different lines there, and they have this lack of predictability with the elements. So you have like some random kind of accented crashes that amazed me, because it's like, oh, we figured it was a good idea to put more emphasis here. That's kind of dope. This sounds like a new section. And then because things are getting more advanced, you've got the vocals coming up a bit more. Sometimes you have breaks where just the guitars, bass, and drums kind of sit there. You also had like the ambience of this kind of weird kind of siren kind of guitar filter synthy thing in the background there whirling around. That was really kind of disconcerting there, but it suited the mood so eloquently. It had varying layers of intensity, dynamic range throughout. The verses themselves were fairly easy to understand. There wasn't a huge amount of range with the story itself. You got the message through clearly. The phrasing was straightforward and sort of like easy to kind of understand. At the guitar riff, rolling around with some occasional broken chords, but mainly with the root notes there, the bass picking that up. And, we occasionally had some harder strums or some harder picked notes there. Sometimes we had crashes or cymbal parts. We even had some tom fills in there. We even had some tom fills later on, some transitions between beats and some cymbal parts, and the drummer was like varying intensities as well, getting heavier towards the end. We went into this kind of like natural development and crescendo as we went along the track, starting from quiet to loud. And then we bell curved it at the end and went out after that last chorus line with the vocals like kind of filtered. And then suddenly the song went to the left a little bit, then came back in the center. And that's just a really fun move in terms of automation and panning. It's a really intriguing song where, like, despite it being 5 minutes 58, 5 minutes 54, it was actually more interesting to listen to because I didn't know what was going to happen next. And that is probably the biggest compliment I can give, is that it's intriguing. And the kind of craziest thing is, I remember saying this in the last time I reviewed a track for eNuminous Archimedes, I said that it's going to be terrifying when AI can make songs to a similar level where they are indiscernible. You know, you can't tell who is who. That's when the industry is just going for a hell of a ride. Because if you can just make a song out of existing presets and it sounds great, why would you possibly need to necessarily go out there for live stuff, right? Cool. You know, live concerts are going to be more important. But there, the moment they get holograms and stuff like that, you know, they already have holograms, to be fair. They've had holograms for decades, but at least a decade or so. I remember seeing Next Japan concert where they had a hologram of the guy playing guitar and stuff. But moving on, the track is well structured. I appreciate the tone of the instruments within it. I think the way they were played, including the organic nature of it, some of the notes were like not totally in sync with the established tempo. They kind of lurched a bit forward or backward. That some of the hits weren't completely in time, they were slightly out. I assume you can probably say, oh, you know, make it not in time 99% of the time or something like that, you know, like you can code it like that. It's just, I adore it, and I don't really know how they could have necessarily improved it. Is it a track that I'd listen to more than once? Probably not, but it's because I've had that journey listening through it. But what I will say is that time through it was enough. You know, I feel like I've had my fill of it. I think that's then going to be the thing about just making sure that there's like the novelty factor to it when they do get to a point where it's as good, doesn't wear off. Because a lot of people are kind of like, you know, they're still figuring out AI music, but it'll get there. The structure of it, yeah, makes sense. It's long form. It's kind of through composed, working through the various stanzas of the story being told there. Plenty of time to appreciate the backing instruments and the arrangement there. Variations in dynamic range, not the same loudest all the time. There weren't any other major lead parts aside from maybe like occasional guitar riffs and stuff like that. There was mostly the vocals that were the focal point, and that was more than enough for me. I think that was totally fine. The theme overall just sounded dire and unhappy, and that's what you needed. Again, those weird kind of noisy kind of synth guitar-y things in the background there made me feel very tense and uncomfortable just as a texture within the arrangement and the performance. And I think that you got a real kind of sad, kind of finite feeling from the notes that were struck by the guitars and the bass and how they unified together. It was very confronting, and it's very effective because of that. When I compare that to the story, it makes a whole lot of sense. But I also don't think there was a note out of place. You know, I'm feeling very positive about this one. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering, things were also leveled really nicely. Again, there were occasional points where those crash kicks were very accented, but aside from that, it was never too much. Things were almost a little bit too quiet for me in the first 20 seconds. I would have preferred for there to have been more of a noticeable build in that white noise thingy happening at the start so that I understood the track was going to get louder. That's also more of a general comment. You'll have people that listen to this, and if they don't understand what's going on within the first 10 seconds, they'll click off because of the attention spans. We need to kind of have more of I think we need to have something there to kind of give people more of a hint, like, hey, no, things will change. And to be fair, we did do that around the 20-second mark, but yeah, I also could be misremembering. But you know, things were reasonably well leveled in the frequency spectrum with no weird resonant frequencies there. Things are nice and wide and stereo field with a bit of panning, automation, stuff like that, stuff going from left to the center at the end. The vocals, you know, sounded clear in the mix for the most part. There was dynamic range I mentioned in the studio side as well. And it was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. I mean, effectively, this is just quite a positive review, I suppose, of this track from an act named Kansas Joe McCoy and Memphis Mini, titled When Levee Breaks. That's their cover, you know, done by eNuminous Archimedes, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go check them out via their various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they hit the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.